VA loans are arguably.
Hey everybody, how are y'all doing today? So we're going live for part 3 of the mobile home course. If y'all missed part 1 or part 2, they are both available for replay on YouTube and the Propelio Facebook group out there on Facebook World. So we've got the wonderful Miss Shanika Lene here today. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful, Daniel. How you doing?
Doing great, doing great. I'm glad to have you here. I'm super glad to have you here. So, have you? I was talking with you beforehand. You said you grabbed some bandit signs. You're ready to get going on this.
Oh yeah, I told you I wasn't playing no games. I'm one of those action takers. You ain't got to tell me twice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm excited about that, man. We've had a lot of activity in the Facebook group of people talking about deals that they've been walking. Like I've had one guy. I think he's. I don't want to misquote this, but I think he's already got 5 of them under contract from a connection he made with a mobile home mover. He got in touch with the mobile home mover and was like, "Hey, you know of any properties that meet this kind of deal?" And he was like, "Hell yeah, I do." So he got that going. I got somebody else up in Ohio that's got a meeting with with a park manager to review a bunch of units. They have like 10 or 12 units that meet the criteria that he has, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll gladly have you come in. Our only request is that you've got." You get them remodeled within 90 days. You know, it doesn't turn into a year-long project. So there's
Yeah,
opportunities out there. I
that is
like it.
so dope, man. That is so dope.
I can't express how excited I am to see people taking action and getting out there and making this type of stuff happen. So, looking forward to it. So today in today's show, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to talk about managing the repair process. Essentially, who we're going to be looking for to do the repairs for us, how to make that as easy as we possibly can, and then moving forward from there. Once we got the property remodeled, we need to get around to getting it sold. So marketing it for resale. Some of the key things that you need to be paying attention to, including TILA. So TILA will affect you. Fairly, the Truth in Lending Act. That's a pretty fairly important part for you to know, as well as TILA Reg Z. So if you're not familiar with Reg Z, we will be talking about Reg Z as well as some fair housing rules. So these are all important things that whenever you turn around and resell this home, that you're paying attention to. And I don't want y'all getting caught up in any of that type of regulation, but you also need to remember that despite my wonderful looks and extensive knowledge on the subject, I'm not an attorney. And I never want to represent myself as an attorney. And you do need to go out and seek your own legal advice, financial advice, and all those other things from fancy people that are way smarter than me. So make sure that before you go out and do this, you get out there and you do double check with your legal advisors on what you got going on out here. So beyond the resale aspect of it, we will be going and I don't think I'm going live in Facebook for whatever
Okay,
reason.
I'm trying to find it. I was going to ask somebody to tag me because I can't see it. Trying to find
Yep,
it.
let me go ahead and just get Facebook rolling. For whatever reason, I messed up and didn't shoot it off live. Let me make sure that's up and going, and I'll repeat some of what I just said. So, hey there, Facebook people. Sorry about that. We went live to YouTube a little sooner than we did on Facebook. But
There we
just to
go.
recap what I just said, because I think it's important, part of what we're going to be discussing today is the repair process for these homes, as well as the securing a new buyer. Part of securing a new buyer does involve some regulations that you need to be aware of, such as TILA, Reg Z. You're also going to need to be familiar with the Fair Housing Act. All of these things are extremely important to you, and if you're not paying attention to them, they can land you in some trouble. So, for that to be said, I must disclose that despite how pretty I might look, I'm not an attorney, a lawyer, a CPA, or any of those other really well paid people. I am just me. And just me, what I'm trying to do is get you aware of what's out there so that way when you do approach your legal staff, you can ask them, say specifically, hey, I'm about to resell a home. Can you give me your rundown on TILA Reg Z? So we'll go through all that. All right. So any questions before we hop into this, sis, on stuff that we've talked about or anything that you've got that you want to say?
No, I'm pretty solid from where we left off last week. I'm ready to
All right.
for this finale.
All right. Well, let's get on it then, because we've already got quite a few people out there in the community that are taking action on this and locking up deals. I've had at least 9 or 10 different people drop pictures of units they're walking, drop pictures of deals that they're trying to get done. So it's really exciting seeing all that come together. I believe Jonathan Mark, he kind of put himself together a little spreadsheet. He and I have been looking at that a little bit today, trying to figure out if that spreadsheet will work. Maybe he'll be kind enough to let all y'all borrow that or use that, because that spreadsheet really helped out with just calculating and formulating the offers. So Love seeing all y'all take action. But all
Oh
that to be
yeah,
said,
Daniel.
yes,
Did
ma'am.
you take a look at those at the folks' numbers that they were putting in on that deal that I posted in there, the scenario?
I have not. You need to put me in Facebook jail or something like that, man. I
Okay.
feel bad. I know I said I would, and I need to. Just my time's been getting monopolized. I
Yeah.
told Jonathan for like 3 days straight I'd take a look at his calculator, and he had to keep hitting me up. He's like, "Hey, man, you got that done yet?" And I'm like, "Man, no, I'll get it done. I'll get it done." So, I'm sorry, everybody. I try my best to be as conscious of my time as I can with everybody, and I commit myself to too much at times. But I do need to get in there and take a look at them all for you because I am excited about everything y'all are doing. I know the benefits that real estate can have for people, and I'm extremely knowledgeable of the benefits that mobile homes can have for people. So you commit yourself to this and you go out there and you take action. Retirement is very doable in under 2 years. And I was personally able to get out of the rat race in about 6 months because of the actions I took with mobile homes. So I
Wow.
believe in them. I believe in them deeply. Like I'm not sitting here just talking about this because I think it's cool or something like that. It's life changing. Like it's quite literally life changing. $40,000 a month, $50,000 a month, $80,000 a month in income off of these
Mm.
types of things with limited capital is really doable. And if we got some time, and I don't want to eat up everybody's Friday night too much, I'll be respectful of it. But sis, if you'd like me to talk about this when we get to the end of the class, I'd like to kind of throw out the simplicity of an action plan that could quite literally have you making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year passively while you're sitting on the beach wherever you're at in the world. So
Wow.
that taken into consideration, there's immense power in what's being taught today, and I'll go through some action plans to show y'all on how that could work at the end of this class. Okay.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then I
Yes,
know
let's
you
do
and I
that.
had discussed briefly the possibility of you putting together some sort of action group over
Okay.
there at Real Estate Investing A to Z or something like that, where you might be willing to kind of work with those people. I don't know. You and I haven't had much of an opportunity to talk on that, but I'd be glad to support you in any way.
Yeah, and if anyone in the listening audience wants to help, 'cause I'm stretched pretty thin too, but it's
Right.
definitely something that I want to do. So if anyone in the listening audience wants to help with putting together like an accountability group so that we can all stay accountable and kind of help each other out, I would certainly welcome the help.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about that. So, the goal for this is to see people exit the rat race and find themselves some financial freedom, something that we should all be striving for ourselves as well as for our peers. So, if you see anybody asking questions and you feel like you can help them, don't be shy. Jump in there. Let's help each other out. Let's remember that we're
Right.
in this together. And in my opinion, the better we're all educated, the better we'll all be as a society. So, there's enough out there for us all to win. So let's jump in on this.
All
So,
right. Sure.
video number one is gonna be managing the repair process. So let me see if I can get that pulled up on the screen real quick. So managing the repair process is where we're gonna get started. So getting in on this, let's see here. By the end of this class, what you should be able to do is you've got to remember that this is a very important part of the journey. We are focusing on our investments here from a cash on cash investment perspective. If I want to keep my cash on cash returns high, I must keep my cash invested low. So, for that taken into consideration, your budget is extremely important. If I've got any single family investors out here watching right now, and I know I do, I've got plenty of y'all successful single family investors out there that are seeking to make massive returns in cash flow on mobile homes. You cannot approach your remodel on a mobile home the same way you would a single family home. The deals are just different. They are. So all of that taken into consideration, remember those key things that I'm talking about. What are those things that I'm always talking about? I'm talking about safe, clean, and affordable. So something like a Formica countertop is just going to be a Formica countertop. I'm not going to go in there and put granite in. I'm not going to go in there and put luxurious hardwood floors and other wild and crazy stuff in there. If it's got wallpaper in it and it's clean and it's got little flowery wallpaper all over it, that flowery wallpaper's staying there. It's not coming out. Because if I have to paint over that wallpaper, that might be $800 to $1,200 that I don't want to spend in my budget. So that taken into consideration, I must keep my repairs under budget. If I don't, I'm going to blow my budget out of the water, and when I do, so will my cash on cash returns. What else am I going to be looking for whenever I'm going through and I'm working on this? You should be able to find the right labor. That's going to be key to keeping your budget low. We're not going to go out there and get our general contractor that runs 50 or 60 single family home remodels at a time. That is not the person you're looking for. Their overhead is going to blow your budget out the water. They're going to give you a $20,000 number for something you're trying to get done for $5,000. That's nothing against those people. They have their time and their place, and they have their demand in the industry. But for you to get these types of things done on a mobile home, you're not looking for that type of person. So I'm going to show you the type of person we are looking for on that side. What else are we going to be looking at? The right parts. Like I said earlier, countertops. I'm not replacing the Formica countertops. If they're pink countertops, guess what? If those pink countertops are functional and they don't have any inherent problems with them, like they're rotted or falling through, those countertops are staying. All those brass doorknobs are staying. You know, the 1-inch plastic mini blinds, they're staying. Everything in that home is staying if it's functional. The only thing I'm replacing is if it's extremely dirty or it's a danger. If it's a danger, you got to fix it. You're not going to turn around and give this home to somebody and let them get hurt in that home. You need to keep the home clean. So if you've got broken glass, if you've got holes in the floor, if you've got electrical outlets that are just hanging out of the wall, those types of things have to be fixed. That's non-negotiable. But the pretty side of it, I'm not looking for pretty so much as clean. Like if the carpet is green, but it's super clean, I might leave green carpet in there. I'm not saying I am right now. I'm not saying I'm not. But I'm not going to shy away. If it's got brand new green carpet in there, brand new green carpet staying. If it's got brand new blue carpet staying in there. You know, it doesn't have to be your trendy new colors. Don't get yourself caught up on that. So we're going to make sure that we're selecting the right parts for this. And mobile homes do have some very important pieces to take into consideration on the repair side. So we're going to create the right scope of work. The scope of work is going to be what helps keep your budget in line, as well as reduce the confusion and management on your behalf when working with your contractor, because they personally are going to have their own problems, their own things going on, and the better your scope of work is, the easier it is going to be for you to manage the job. So where else we at? Okay. I say this over and over and over. Our goal is going to be safe, clean, and affordable. The reason that we are able to do this, and the reason we are able to go out there and get these homes sold in the way that we're doing, is something that we as all microeconomists should know, is the point of supply and demand. There is a strong demand, and I've never seen this strong demand waver. I don't care what the economy's doing, whether the economy's up, down, or flat. There is always and has always been a very strong demand for low-income housing. Something that is safe, clean, and affordable will sell. And the key piece to that is affordable. If you want it to sell fast, safe, and clean, affordable housing is important. And you're not going to be able to provide affordable housing if you go in here and you blow your budgets out of the water. So keep all of this in mind. All right? Now, so the better prepared you are for starting this project, the better this project is going to go for you. And what do I mean by that? You need to have a very clearly defined understanding of what repairs you intend to make inside of this home. So certain things I would do on my side for making this happen. And I don't have a copy of an Excel spreadsheet for you because on my side, I was never a very big details guy. I can get details out there, but that is just not my strength. So for you out there that are looking for formulas and spreadsheets and all that stuff, I respect it and I understand that. That's not me, but I'll explain to you how I would do it with Excel. All I would do is go into an Excel spreadsheet and I'd put a row on there, and that row would say master bedroom. And then on master bedroom, I would just start writing down every single thing I want repaired inside of that master bedroom. It's like, I want the wall outlet on the south wall replaced. I want all plugs and light fixtures taped off before painting. I don't want to see overspray on all my doorknobs. I don't want to see overspray on all my light plugs and all that stuff like that. I want to replace the carpet. I want to fix a hole in the sheetrock on the north wall. I want to whatever, there's a soft spot in the floor. I want to replace the soft spot in the floor. Anything that I want done, I would itemize on that Excel spreadsheet. And anything that I did not want messed up or I did not want demoed, I would clearly put in that spreadsheet. So it's like if there was some hardwood flooring or some laminate flooring in the bathroom or something like that, and I wanted to save that, I would clearly put in the master bathroom, leave the hardwood flooring in the master bathroom, and I put in real big caps, do not remove. And I would go through the entire unit from room to room to room, and I would outline every single thing that I wanted done in that room, and I would clearly define things that I did not want done in that room. It's like, I do not want my plugs painted. I do not want my switches painted. I do not want my doorknobs painted. I do not want my hinges painted. I do not want X, Y, and Z to happen. So I go through each and every single room, one room at a time, and then whenever it comes time to get my contractor, I walk the entire job with my contractor room to room, and I get them to look through, and I hand over the spreadsheet to them, and I say, let's go through this one line at a time. So I want them to look at it and look at these lines, so that way we can have a very open dialogue through this entire process, and then I get the guy to go back and bid the entire job off of that spreadsheet. So that's how I go through. But the better I am at having that documented and signed off on, the better I am going to be as a person with my stress levels, because my contractor knows room by room exactly what's supposed to happen. And if they do something wrong, it makes it very easy for me to stand in that middle of the room, pull open my spreadsheet and say, you signed off on this spreadsheet. I signed off on this spreadsheet. This spreadsheet says do not spray or do not paint my plugs on the walls. Every single plug in this room has been painted. You need to replace them. You know, I don't argue about that. It is clearly defined, and depending upon if let's say a scenario does happen like that, you know, this is clearly their problem, and I've got a paper trail to prove it. With that paper trail to prove it, the way that this contractor deals with it is going to greatly determine my relationship with that contractor moving forward. Now, I'm not going to go in there like a bulldog and just be an asshole and be like, "Hey, you need to go clean up all this stuff." No, I'm not going to pop off like that. I'm going to go up in there and be respectful and be like, "Hey, man, I know that this is my first time working with you, and I really want to make this relationship last and go moving forward. But one of the clearly defined items on this scope of work that you and I both discussed prior to this project starting was that I didn't want any of the plugs in the house to be painted. And unfortunately, I know it was a mistake on your behalf, and I know that you wouldn't do this intentionally, but all of the plugs in the house have been painted. I do need them replaced." So that's how I'm going to handle it. Now, if they come back to me respectfully and they're like, "Man, I know, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. I'll get it right." Boom. Guess what? I know that I've probably got a general contractor or a handyman type of person that I'm going to be working with from this day moving forward, because they can accept their faults, they don't make excuses for it, and they solve them. I want to work with people like that. But if I go up there and I approach them and they come back to me with a whole bunch of excuses, a whole bunch of complaints, I'll probably finish the job with them, but I'm never doing another job with them again. Okay? So coming back over here, we talked about getting prepared. Okay? Oh yeah, that's a really important piece, and I put that in as a final quote. Make sure that your scope of work, especially on the exterior of the home, most of the time your park will not dictate what the interior of the home looks like. I've never seen a park that does dictate the interior of a home, but the exterior repairs to your home have to meet park guidelines. They may require a certain shade of paint to be used on the outside of that mobile home. Well, if they require a certain shade of paint and you paint yours the wrong color, you might have to paint your house again. They may require your skirting to be vinyl, or your skirting to be metal, or your skirting to be brick. They might require your front porch to be at least 10 foot by 10 foot. They might require at least 10 square foot of plants in a flower bed at the front of your home. These are all things that the park manager may require, and before you go through and start doing a bunch of repairs, make sure that your repair list is in compliance with your park manager. Okay. Meet Chuck. Chuck is your friend. And I don't know if this is a common term, but a lot of times I hear real estate investors refer to as a general handyman as like you're chucking a truck. It's basically just one man, maybe a helper, and they've got a truck full of tools. They can generally do just about everything with the house. They can do sheetrock repair. They can do paint, tape, bed texture. They can do light repair work on electrical, such as replacing an electrical plug or replacing a ceiling fan, replacing doorknobs, stuff like that. You're looking for a solid handyman that is essentially just doing one job at a time and looking for enough income to get their bills paid. And that is essentially what they're doing. I mean, they're just out there with their truck, and they're just doing whatever they can. They don't have 15, 20 employees. This is the person you're really looking for. And with that being said, this is the person I'm looking for. How are we going to find this person, and what exactly are we going to be looking for when we do find them? So, key things I'm looking for. This person is likely going to need tighter supervision. At least for the first several projects that we do together, I'm gonna need to supervise this person. So my time involved with this type of person is going to be a higher level of commitment. With this higher level of commitment, you need to understand that that's your expense in this. If you want less time involved with it, expect your cash on cash returns to dwindle. Because if I go out and I hire a turnkey general contractor, something that I'm spending $5,000 on is about to go up to $15,000 to $20,000. That is a big difference in repair costs. So you need to take that into consideration. Other things to take a look at is these people are likely going to give you some delayed timelines. I'm not going to be able to go in there and get tight-fisted and be like, you know what, I need this done in 5 days. Maybe I can. But most of the people that you're going to find that operate under this chuck in a truck fashion are normally looking for the best paying job for the day. And if they get a job in the middle of your job and it's going to pay better, they might be gone for a day or two to get that other job knocked out, because they're going to make $600 on that job in 2 days, and they're going to make $600 on your job in 5 days. Well, it's better for them to be on that other job for a couple of days, and they're going to bounce back to yours. You need to understand that that is a likely problem that you're going to have, but anticipate it and just work with these people and make sure that, you know, you don't want your job abandoned for 2 weeks. That's absolutely a no-go. But you know what? If they don't show up every single day at 8 a.m. and work until 5 p.m., you need to accept it. That's probably the norm. You know, I'm going to be straight up. Most of these people that I've worked with on this level have some level of codependency with drugs and alcohol. They are often somebody that are, they're just looking to get by. I don't have anything else to say. They don't want to have a crew of 50 people working for them. They're just looking for enough income to make sure that their bills are paid and that they're able to go home and relax. So all that taken into consideration, your management of these people is gonna be a little bit higher. All right, what else am I going to be looking at here? Yeah, there we go. I look at this one and I look at this one hard. I expect work that is about an 8 out of a 10, and I accept about a 7 out of a 10, and every once in a while I might accept about a 6 out of a 10, as long as some of it is at least an 8 out of a 10. I'm looking for an average 7 out of a 10 on the work. You know, if I go into this house and all of the paint lines aren't super perfect, I'm not gonna come back and make that guy repaint all that trim. But I don't want to see, you know, like 4 inches of overspray on the ceiling and everything. That's a little bit different. But if the cut-in lines aren't perfect, I'm not gonna be mad at this person. If I have them lay down some carpet and I can see some of the seams in the carpet and the carpet seams aren't absolutely perfect, I'm not gonna make him redo it. But if every single thing in there is just not done right, you know what, we need to get that fixed. But expect an 8 out of a 10 and accept a 7 out of 10. And if you're able to do that, you're likely going to find somebody that you're going to be able to work with. And when you finally do find someone that's working well with you on this side, make sure that you keep that relationship solid. Make sure that you take care of them. When it's time to get paid, make sure that they're getting paid. Don't jerk them around about their prices. Like, you know what, they might come in and say, you know what, I'm going to charge you $200 to replace that bathtub. And then you find somebody else, they say they're going to charge you $175. Don't beat up your guy that you've worked with for the last 2 homes over $25. Give him the $25 and accept that you've already built that relationship and that you know that you're solid and this person can do what they say they'll do. Otherwise, you're going to end up with more headaches. Okay? What else are we going to be looking on? We need to determine who supplies the parts. With me personally, if I'm working with Chuck, I expect to be making parts runs for Chuck at least twice a week, because I expect Chuck to quote labor. I don't expect him to quote materials. All I want Chuck to do is tell me, how much is he going to charge to paint the house? I'll supply the paint. How much will you charge to lay some sticky tile in the bathrooms? I'll supply the sticky tiles. How much will you charge me to install the mini blinds, the little 1-inch mini blinds that I can get for $8 a pop at Lowe's? You know what? You'll charge me $10 a window? Okay, I'll supply the mini blinds. That is how I typically work with him. And what I'll normally do is I'll show up early in the week, a Monday or a Tuesday, and I'm going to say, hey, what parts do you need to keep you going for this week? And I'll get them to give me a list, and I'll say, text me everything else that you need during the week, and I'll get you picked up at the end of the weekend. Now, at the end of the week. So that way at the beginning of the week, they got some supplies to get started with, and during the middle of the week, they got additional supplies to keep going. I never try to buy all the supplies at once and keep them on site, because I have too much bad experience of the material disappearing. So I only get enough to get about a week's worth of work done at a time, and I always ask them for what they want. Now, for little nuance items. And I try to make this clear. It's like, if you need some more sheetrock nails, if you need another saw blade or something like that, I will reimburse you the costs for that type of stuff, but don't shut my job down over it. If you need to, go to Home Depot, pick yourself up a little bit of something and hand me over the receipts. I'll reimburse you for that. You know, I'm not expecting you to go out and spend $600 in materials, but you know what? If you hand me $50 worth of Home Depot receipts, I'll take care of you on that side, okay? So we're looking for that. Where do I get parts? Now, this is a little bit different. I have found that Lowe's will often have a mobile home section, typically in their plumbing area. Now, the plumbing in a mobile home does require typically different fixtures. The plumbing or the drain waste system is not typically your white PVC. It is a black PVC. Your tailpieces and drains off of your sinks are a little bit different in a mobile home. Lowe's is the only big box store that I have found that typically carries mobile home supplies. Now, that is not always every single Lowe's. That's some Lowe's, so you might want to call up a Lowe's and say, hey, do you have mobile home parts in your plumbing section? Because from there, you should be able to find your bathroom fixtures, your sink fixtures, your toilet diverter, not your toilet, your tub diverters, and all that type of stuff, because they are specific to a mobile home. Now, there are going to be other parts like your bathroom sinks, your kitchen sinks. Your kitchen sinks are not like a typical home. They're shallower. They're only like 5 or 6 inches deep versus the typical 8 to 10 inches deep. So you can't just take a regular household sink and just drop it into a mobile home. Even if you do go out and buy one, you're going to find yourself paying for a lot more labor, because you're going to have to cut the sink out. You're going to have to move the plumbing around. You're going to have to do all those types of things. So if you do go out to replace a sink, remember that you can order your sinks online at places like mobilehomepartsstore.com. Or if you're lucky enough to live in a large urban metropolitan area, you might find 1 or 2 mobile home parts suppliers in your metropolitan area. That taken into consideration, try to get that locally. Like if you need to replace a bathtub, the bathtubs are not standard household bathtubs. You do not want to try and put a single family home bathtub into a mobile home. Mobile home bathtubs are 50 inches. Household bathtubs are 60 inches. You don't want to play that. You don't want to play around with that. So you want to get stuff made specifically for this home, and a good place to do that is mobilehomepartsstore.com, Lowe's, Amazon, or if at all possible, a local mobile home parts distributor. That local mobile home parts distributor is going to give you some really good benefits, because if you go to order a bathtub off of mobilehomepartsstore.com, the bathtub's $225 and the shipping is $150. You don't want to pay those shipping costs. So if you can find them local, that's your best bet. Okay? What else do we got here moving forward? If you see any questions pop up, sis, please let me know. I'm trying my best to monitor everything that's going on, but if you have any questions, sis, interrupt me. Just feel free to say, Daniel, slow it down. And I'll do my best to make sure that I'm making sure that everybody is getting exactly what they came here for, and that's as much value as I can possibly provide. So if anybody out there has questions, drop the questions. We are live, because my goal is to make sure that by the end of this class, any of your questions were answered. So back over here, where do I get parts? I'm going to find used appliances. You know, I'm going to find a matching set of white appliances. I'm not going to pay the extra money for stainless steel. I might even be willing to use beige appliances or almond appliances. I don't really care. The biggest thing that I'm looking for is that they're clean and they're safe and they're affordable. So I will use used appliances. A used HVAC system. Like, I don't mind replacing a broken condenser with a used condenser. My goal is to keep it affordable. And if I have to spend $1,800 to get a brand new condenser installed, or I can spend $600 and get a used condenser installed, I'm going to go ahead and install that used condenser. Carpet remnants. Instead of spending the money to have matching carpet throughout the whole home, I might break the home up a little bit. You know, the bedrooms might have a different type of carpet than the living room. That's not going to hurt my feelings. So that doesn't really hurt my feelings. Sometimes I can get one bedroom done on a remnant roll, and I can get that remnant roll for 20 cents a foot versus 80 cents a foot. Well, I'll use that remnant roll for a bedroom. I'll find another remnant roll for another bedroom, and then I'll make the living room one solid color. Now I try to get them close in color. Like I don't want to put blue in one bedroom, pink in another bedroom, and then green in the living room. I'll try and use beige throughout the whole home. If I'm going to replace the carpet, I'm going to try and use some form of neutral color, and I'll try and use at least a similar neutral color in all 3 rooms so it's not clashing too hard. But I don't mind using remnants for a situation like this. Okay, what else am I going to be looking at? On the decks, when you're looking at the decks on a home, many of them are going to look weather rotted. Or not. I don't want something that is weather rotted. Obviously, I don't want a bunch of rotted wood on my front porch, but the wood itself might not look very pretty. It's all beat up from the weather. It doesn't look very good. Something I have found to make the front porches look really good, and it's cheap, is you can go out and buy deck paint from Lowe's or Home Depot. It's like a sanded paint. You can paint that deck. It's kind of thick, and whenever it's all said and done with, it makes the deck look brand new, and you can get a deck looking brand new for like $150. So I'll always go that route whenever I'm doing these homes. So coming back over here, payments. I never, ever want to pay Chuck in a truck a payment before they get some work done. Like I always make sure that I am paying them on milestones that we've determined beforehand. Especially whenever I've got them doing nothing but labor, there is absolutely no reason for them to need a draw on labor that they have not performed. And if they're concerned, and I can respect this, there is a lot of reasons for contractors to be concerned because they have committed to working for other people in the past, done a lot of work, and those people wouldn't pay them. So if they do have those types of concerns, say, you know what, this is the first time you and I have ever worked together. I'm willing to pay you every other day. I'm willing to pay you once a week. So that way you can get your income coming in and you don't have to get yourself too concerned with risks. All of those things taken into consideration, I don't want to go through the problems of having to show up to this job every day to make sure that you get paid and that you're doing your job. What I will do is I'll show up at the end of the week and you and I will discuss what needs to be done the next week, and we will determine draws based upon that. It's like this week, you say you're going to get all the demo done, you're going to get the walls painted. All right, if you get all that done this week, I'm going to go ahead and get you paid for that. And I'll get you paid in that fashion so that way you're not drawing yourself all the way out to the end of the job waiting to get paid. But at the same time, I'm not going to give you a draw on payments up front. Okay? Once you have found a solid contractor that you're working with, and I say contractor, and I'm pretty much meaning a handyman. At the point in time that you have found somebody that has done 2 or 3 jobs with you, they're getting the job done to a standard that you can accept, and that they're doing things in a professional and studious manner, take care of them. Who cares if you go out and you find somebody else that says they bid the job $800 cheaper or $900 cheaper? That $800 or $900 might just bite you in the ass in change orders, in management fees, and all those other things that you have to take into consideration when working with somebody. Okay, let's keep this going. Specialists. Chuck should be able to do most of your paint. Chuck should be able to do most of your light electrical work, like replacing fixtures and stuff like that, hardware work, changing out plumbing fixtures, changing out a bathtub, changing out a toilet. They should be able to do all of that stuff. I'm not expecting this handyman necessarily to know how to go out and put a new air conditioning system in. They most definitely shouldn't know how to do foundation leveling. You should leave foundation leveling to a foundation expert. They're not necessarily going to be qualified to roof. They may be. But you're going to need to ask these types of people beforehand. And if they do say yes, make sure that you ask some qualifying questions, because someone that says they can do it might just be really hungry for work and they're not really qualified to do it. So don't let them just go to town on your house until you know for a fact that they're qualified to do what they're accepting to do. HVAC and electrical. These are all key things. Like I don't want them to go through and completely rewire my house. You know, I don't mind them changing out a light fixture. I don't mind changing out a plug, but I'm not going to get them to go in there and start doing massive amounts of electrical work. Okay? So, some homework on this particular section is to go out there and kind of put yourself together a scope of work. Even if it's on your own house or on some place that you're renting, walk through your apartment, walk through your house, and go through one room at a time and kind of put yourself together your own kind of little scope of work, so that way you've got an idea of what that process should look like. The more details you get, the less confusion there is, and the less confusion there is, the less management you have to do. The less management you have to do, the happier you're going to be. Look around Home Depot or Lowe's for handymen, especially in like Facebook groups and other areas like that. Facebook groups, great place to look. Craigslist. Angie's List, not so much, although I have looked on Angie's List before. I am looking for most definitely that stereotypical person that's got a truck with just tons of tools on it, that has a general understanding of how to do everything, and they're not running a crew of 50 people. Okay? Try to find a reference for a handyman on local Facebook groups. Those are always my best. Like, I'll go into a local investment group on Facebook and say, hey guys, do y'all have anybody y'all recommend as a handyman? I'm not looking for a contractor that goes out and that can manage a whole job for me, but I'm looking for somebody that can change out plumbing fixtures, do some paint and stuff like that for me. You know, general handyman. Most people, especially landlords, will have somebody like that they can refer you to. Research your local stores for a mobile home parts supplier. If you're in a major metro area, hopefully you'll have one in town, just like mobile home parts store. Maybe search for something like that in Google for your local area. If you're in a more rural area, you may not have something close by, and you may have to rely on the internet to get your parts in. Okay, and then if you do have a local mobile home parts supplier, just take a trip over there just to see what they have in stock, some of the types of things that you should be able to find. In most of these stores, the general things that you'll find in stock will be your sinks, bathtubs, plumbing fixtures, as well as skirting and other replacement panels and stuff like that. Typical doorknobs, door hinges. Mobile homes doors are not the same as single family doors. Door hinges are not the same as the regular single family homes. So your door hinges will be different. Your doorknobs will be different. Your plugs will be different. Now you can put a regular single family home plug in, but it's going to take you a lot more work. So if you don't want to go through all the extra work of converting it over to a single family plug, you're going to have to go through and get yourself a mobile home plug. They're different. So I want you to know all of this. So that is the conclusion of the managing the repairs part of the mobile home class. If we have any questions on that, feel free to drop them on me right now. In the meantime, I'm going to get ourselves cut over to the next set of slides.
I got one question from Jonathan. So he asked, do you typically only work with chucks that have mobile home experience, or is that only necessary for specialists?
Chucks, I'll generally work with on any basis. I prefer that they have mobile home experience, but essentially painting's painting, and some of the nuances that are different between a mobile home and a single family home, I can generally discuss that with a contractor up front, basically being like, we need to make sure that the vapor barriers that are currently on the home remain where they're at. Like, I don't want to use a vapor barrier on the exterior of a mobile home. I always put the vapor barrier on the interior of a mobile home. Other than that, just a single layer of roofing shingles. And then beyond that, most of it's fairly well intuitive beyond that. Most people wouldn't know about the vapor barrier. Most people wouldn't know about the ventilation requirements on the underspace of a mobile home. I need to make sure that my skirting's ventilated. Beyond that, it's fairly self-explanatory. So those are the key things that, like, if I know that we're going to be replacing the exterior siding, I'm going to let Chuck know, hey Chuck, I don't want to put the vapor barrier on the outside of that home. The vapor barrier goes on the inside on this particular model. Okay? So I'm going to get the next class popped up.
While you pulling that up, Bill asked a question. Are small town mobile home parks with a mobile home that is 5 years old with conditions good for long-term investing for newer mobile homes?
I'm not going to pretend like I completely understood that. So I'm going to break that down because I heard a couple of things. One of the first things I heard was small town's good. All right. So let me break that down. You must confirm that there's demand for housing before you go into a smaller town. Just because that there's a mobile home available doesn't necessarily mean that it's a deal. There needs to be some level of commerce inside of that town. There needs to be some sort of demand for housing in that town. And I need to take it into consideration and look at what's the majority makeup of Section 8 homes in that town. Like, if we're a very heavily dependent Section 8 town and we have very little employment in that town, your ability to get this home resold, especially with a considerable down payment, might cause you to struggle a bit. Now, all that taken into consideration, I'm not going to shy away from a small town, but my requirements are going to be that I can see an obvious demand for employment in that area, and that this park is not going to be completely full of Section 8. Because if people in this park are dependent upon Section 8, they're not going to be able to pay me what I'm expecting for on a note most often. So you must take all that into consideration and move forward with that in mind. Now, the next part you were saying, like a newer mobile home. Can you help me break that down, sis? Like, what was that? What was that looking like?
Um, I can't say I really understood the question completely either.
Okay.
Um, Our small town mobile home parks with a mobile home that is 5 years old with conditions good for long time investing for newer mobile homes.
I really don't get that, but all I gotta say is if the mobile home's 5 years old and you can get it on terms that make sense to you, that sounds like a fairly decent deal. And I don't really know without further clarification much more beyond that. But really, like, I mean, yeah, my answer is always going to be yes. If the numbers make sense and you can get the home sold, it's a deal. Like if your numbers say you want a 50% cash on cash return, do it. If your numbers say you want 150% cash on cash returns, do it. So just make sure that you're able to go out there and do it. I don't really have much else to say beyond that. Any other questions? Or you want to jump into the finding a buyer section?
Well, this question is relevant to the repair section, so let me get this one in right quick.
All right.
How do you know what is a good price point for a specific job you're having Chuck to do, and what will be an inflated price?
Ooh, that's going to be experience. That's going to be experience. Now, and this is where I'm not going to be able to help you out as much because I do have a lot of construction background, and since I do, I didn't have to find out a way to automate a lot of that part of the section. Like if someone tells me they're going to charge me $1,000 to replace a toilet, I know better than that. I mean, when I'm looking at labor, what I'm trying to essentially equate this out to is somewhere between $20 to maybe $40 an hour in labor. So whenever I look at replacing a toilet, I'm looking at most maybe 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. So at absolute tops, I don't want to pay more than $100 to swap out that toilet. I really don't. I'd really prefer to pay about $50 to $60 to swap out that toilet. Now, to swap out that bathtub, I know on a mobile home that bathtub can be swapped out in about 2 to 3 hours. So I'm really not looking to spend more than maybe $100 to $150 to swap out that bathtub. And I also know that to fix a soft spot in the floor, let's say it's a 3 foot by 3 foot soft spot in the living room. Well, I already know that they're gonna have to pull out the carpet. I expect them pulling out the carpet as part of the demo, and I've already put my time towards how long I think they'll demo it. I always look at it from like a 20 to maybe at most $50 an hour job to kind of do. And if someone's telling me they're going to charge me a really high amount, I'll just divide it by that. I'm like, do I really think it's going to take 15 hours to replace that toilet? I don't think so. So that's kind of how I operate, and I wish I could give you a better understanding than that, but I just never automated that side of my business. I mean, I'm 36 years old, and I've got 23 years of construction experience. So with 23 years of construction experience, it's just that's what I know. So I don't have much I can help out on that side.
So Nicole's asking a question kind of in the same vein. Could you kind of advise her a little bit, just kind of give her a ballpark figure? She's asking about subflooring for a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and it's about a 5 by 5 area. She's got one quote for 150 and another for 400. Which one sounds about right?
I'm leaning heavily towards, especially if they're including material on that 151. So what I'm looking at for material, so you're saying it's about a 5 foot by 5 foot section of soft flooring. That 5 foot by 5 foot section of soft flooring should be able to be done with a single sheet of 3/4 inch plywood. That 3/4 inch plywood shouldn't cost more than $25. So 150 of that, 25 of it goes towards the sheet of plywood, 125 for labor. I would expect between picking up the piece of plywood, showing up to the house, making the repairs and cleanup, being no more than 4 hours to 5 hours worth of work. So with 5 hours worth of work taken into consideration, that man's making probably about 20 to 25 bucks an hour, which is definitely on the bottom end of my budget. And with that taken into consideration, 150 bucks is definitely doable.
Perfect. All right. That concludes this section.
Awesome. Well, here's the fun part. Let's see if we can find some buyers. And I'm gonna get in on this one a little bit. And there's gonna be a lot more on this section than what you might be prepared for, because I'm gonna be talking about a lot of regulatory things that you need to be aware of to make sure that you're staying safe. And you do need to get out there and speak with your attorney before doing any of this. Like, as you can tell from my previous statements, I'm not an attorney. And there are things that are regulated by law in this class. You need to get with your attorney and confirm and make sure that you're doing things right. So let me get in on this real quick. So let me switch over. Let's get you in and let's go. All right. Finding buyers. Most important part. All right. Things you'll figure out during this is, kind of the mindset of the person that's going to be looking to buy these homes, marketing for the buyers, some laws you should be aware of, tips for keeping up with it all, and we'll move forward from there. So understanding our buyers. What are we going to be looking at when we're looking at this? They are looking for an opportunity for home ownership. There are going to be a group of people that really just want to be able to say they own their own home. And for a lot of them, that path to home ownership does start with a mobile home, and that's a very exciting piece for them. And in a lot of ways, here are some really cool things that you as an investor might even be able to think of with these people. This might be their stepping stone to a single family home. This will be their first opportunity to go out and experience some home ownership. They'll start out here, and if they can own it free and clear in five years, what will likely happen is somewhere between them buying it and 5 years, they may decide to go off and move on up to something else. I always, whenever I turn around to resell these homes, try to talk and see if we can say a first right of refusal. If at any point in time you do decide to sell this home, will you please reach back out to me and give me the option to buy it back from you? That gives me the opportunity to get these homes back in. But here are some things that the buyer might be able to look at and that you as a salesman might be able to help this buyer think through is if they are working on a stepping stone towards getting themselves their own home. Let's say they buy this home from you and over the course of time they spend $30,000 on getting it cleaned up or $30,000 on purchasing it from you. At the end, you're not going to be able to sell it for $30,000 unless you're willing to take payments. What you can do, on the other hand, though, is probably sell it for $10,000 cash. And if you sell it for $10,000 cash, how's that look to you? Well, now you've got 10 grand, Mr. or Mrs. Home Buyer. With that 10 grand, you could use that as a down payment on your new home, your dream home, that 3-bed, 2-bath with a pool in the burbs that you've always wanted. You can use that 10 grand to put down on that. In addition to that, you could use that 10 grand to clean up your credit so you can qualify for a new home loan. Between qualifying for a new home loan and your newfound lump of cash that you have in your back pocket, you may actually be able to go out there and secure the dream home that you've always been looking for. So those are some things that I might be looking at on this side. This taken into consideration, the very first mobile home I ever did was an older gentleman. He was probably in his mid-60s. He was getting towards the end of his feasible work life. Like he was worked in construction his whole life. He's probably not going to be able to work construction for another 15 years. He understood that his income was likely about to start going down, and he wanted the best opportunity to reduce his monthly expenses as he possibly could. So he buys this home from me. House payments and lot rent are $600 a month. Well, the house payment was $400 a month. So in 5 years, his payments go down from $600 a month to $200 a month. Well, $200 a month was something he felt very comfortable in being able to afford with his Social Security. So this was the very first home he had ever bought in his entire life. He was like 63 years old. In 63 years, this man has never owned a home, been a tenant his entire life. That man sat down with me at the kitchen table of this mobile home in tears, crying, because he was finally able to own a home. Now, don't tell me that that's not something that you're going to be proud of being able to do for somebody. You are giving people the opportunity for home ownership here. Okay, so let's cut back over here. Affordable housing that provides more than an apartment. Not everybody wants to deal with an apartment. Me personally, like I've only lived in an apartment a small handful of times, and never once did any of them turn out good for me. Like I do not do good well when I'm stacked up around people. I need space. I need to be able to get away from people. If you start putting me in a really densely populated area, I'm in trouble. I need to get away from people. So not everybody likes to deal with an apartment, and not everybody can really afford the house. So the mobile home's kind of like that interim between where you still have some home ownership there. If you want to paint your bedroom whatever color you want to paint it, paint your bedroom whatever color you want to paint it. If you want to replace the floor, do whatever you want. It's your home. So that's one of the big benefits over an apartment to a mobile home is that it's actually yours. You get a little bit of a yard, you get a little bit of a privacy. You don't have somebody living above or below you. You're not stacked up and sardined together. So mobile homes have a lot of benefits over apartments, and they have a very similar feel to a single family home, except for it's a lot easier to buy a mobile home. It's a lot easier to afford. So it's kind of the best of both worlds that's affordable. All right. And Kamaria, if I said your name wrong, my apologies. Yes, this will be recorded for review later in the Propelio group, as well as Propelio TV on YouTube. So, other things about our buyers. They can often put their kids into a better school system than what they would be able to otherwise if they were going into a single family home or something comparable. They can get into a better school district for a little less money. Many mobile home buyers are excited about paying off their homes fast and reducing their monthly expenses, just as in the case scenario that I just discussed with this other person. You know, he was very excited because he knew that he was getting towards the end of his ability to work the way he's historically earned his living, and needed to find some way to reduce his expenses as much as he possibly could. And this was his opportunity. So what else do we got over here? First-time home buyers. Lots of first-time home buyers on this side. And if not, they're most often a second or third-time mobile home buyer. So you'll see that quite often. These won't be the first mobile homes they've bought. This will be their second or third one. Okay? Getting the home sold. We need to make sure that this home is prepped for sale. Some things that I want to do is make sure that all unsightly repairs are completed. I want the exterior of that home looking good. I want to make sure that the skirting's clean. I want to make sure that the paint on the outside of the home's clean, that there's a little bit of flowers at the front of the home, and that my porch is nice and painted. You know, I'll use that decking paint. Home is heated and cooled. I always try to make sure that when someone walks into that house, especially in the summer, they're excited about being in that home. If it's the middle of winter, I want them excited about being in that home. So I want to make sure that home is heated and cooled by the time it's time to start showing this. Other things that I'm going to look for is I'm going to have a flyer highlighting amenities and characteristics of this property, so that way when they enter the home, I can hand them that flyer and they can look through all the stuff that's done on this home. I'm going to want to make sure that that there's lighting in it. I've never personally staged one of my homes, but if you are having problems getting a home sold, staging it may help your moving of the property. One of the things that I do like to do, my wonderful wife got me hooked on these way back in the day when we were doing a lot of single family home flips. We had just an entire army of little Cinnabon air wicks, like the little air wick plug smelly good things. There was a flavor out for a while, or I say a scent out for a while for Cinnabon. And man, I would walk into a house, I would smell those cinnamon rolls, and my fat butt would get hungry. And I would, man. I can't lie. You walk in that house and you smell that Cinnabon, and you just start wanting to be there. So like every home ever since then, if I had that home available for sale, air wick with some Cinnabon in it. And I don't know if that's ever helped me, but I've never heard anybody complain. Mm-hmm. So I always use those Cinnabon air fresheners. Going through, marketing this property for sale, I always talk to the neighbors. Always talk to the neighbors. Like, how excited would you be able to be if you could get your best friend to move in next door, or your mom or your dad or your aunts, cousins, uncles? You know, you always like being around people that you want to be around, and there's no better way to find that than get in touch with the neighbors and say, hey, I'm getting this home sold next door with some payments. You got anybody that you know that you might want to live next door to? And then bam, you know, they'll say, yeah, man, I know my sister's been looking for a home in this park right now. Let me call her up. Boom, you've already got somebody on the hook for getting this home sold. So referrals are always a great thing to do. I don't know if I put this in here, but something else I like to do, and I always make sure that the park manager is okay with me doing it first, is I'll go out and I'll drop flyers on all of the units inside of the park, letting everybody know that there's a home for sale. But make sure that you talk to the park manager and the park manager is cool with that first. Many times, it's not often they'll tell you yes, but many times they're going to tell you no. So before you do it, make sure you talk to that park manager, and then I'll take it one step further from there. If they won't allow me to go out and drop these on all the homes, if there's a bulletin board in the office, I'll ask them if I can put a home for sale thing on the bulletin board at the office. Okay? Other things that I'm going to do to get this home sold. Door hangers on the nearby apartments. Yes, I talked about the mobile home park, but I would go blanket the living hell out of every single apartment complex nearby with pictures of the home, with some understandings of how they can purchase this property. You know, down payment, own your own home in the next 60 months type of stuff. So I'll do that. I'll also do online and paper classifieds, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, any of those other classifieds that you can get on your phone, the apps for your phone. I use those. Facebook groups, buy, sell, trade. Bandit signs, I sell a ton of mobile homes off of Bandit signs. Bandit signs and online classifieds are my 2 number 1 resources for getting mobile homes sold. Pre-built lists of buyers. If I am constantly marketing homes for sale, especially whenever I go out and I drop these in like Facebook Marketplace, I don't always put the address of the property in there because I'll get a lot of people hitting me up and like, yeah, you got mobile homes for sale? And he's like, yeah, I've always got mobile homes for sale. Where are you looking? And they're like, well, I'm talking about that one that you got on there. It was a light blue one with a really nice kitchen on the inside. I was like, oh yeah, that one. I got that one's over in Little Elm, but I've got them all over the place. Where were you looking? They're like, oh, Little Elm's too far away from me. Well, then where are you? Oh, you're looking in Alvarado? All right, you're looking in Alvarado. How much of a down payment do you got? Because I might have one coming up for Alvarado soon. So I'll get their name, I'll get their phone number, I'll get their email address, and now I've got a list of people that are looking to buy these types of homes from me. And that way, if I do get something in Alvarado, I can really quickly look back through my list of homes and call all these people back. Okay, let's cut back over here. Okay, here is an important piece, and I need to pause. I'm going to leave this screen up for y'all to watch. I'm going to let you read this line by line and go through. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Take a screenshot of this. This is extremely important. And while I say that this is extremely important, I need you to also understand that I am not an attorney. All I'm doing is doing my own personal research and collecting those thoughts for you to review. You need to take these thoughts that I've provided you with and go out there and get your own advice. But TILA Reg Z has some very, very important terms that may trigger disclosures. And if you do not disclose what is required by the state, you may find yourself open to some potential legal issues. What do those things look like? Okay, what do those things look like? TILA examples. Mobile home for sale, only $5,000 down. Let me back up real quick. Trigger terms are terms used in any form of advertising that will trigger mandatory additional disclosures. The terms are the amount of a down payment, the amount of any installment payment, the number of payments, the total number of payments, the length of financing term, or the finance charge amount. If any one of the above triggered terms are used, then you must include the following disclosure: required down payment, repayment terms, the annual percentage rate, and it all has to be spelled out. This is important to you. So if we do go forward and I start advertising and I say, mobile home for sale, only $5,000 down, let me see some feedback from everybody out there in the group right now. I'm going to pause. Based upon what I just said, if I put an advertisement out and all it says is mobile home for sale, $5,000 down, did I just trigger TILA Reg Z? Mobile home for sale, $5,000 down. Did I trigger TILA Reg Z? You most definitely did. Because, what was the because? Write this stuff down. The terms are the amount of a down payment. Well, look at this. What is that? That's the amount of a down payment. I just said $5,000 down. Well, if I say $5,000 down, let's say I drop a bandit sign out there. And the bandit sign's mobile home for sale, only $5,000 down. Well, if I say $5,000 down, all of the rest of the TILA required disclosures are now subject to your advertising. You need to pay attention to that. Own your new mobile home for only $400 a month. That one triggers TILA. Easily purchase your mobile home with just 48 equal payments. Boom, you just triggered TILA Reg Z. Pay off your mobile home in 3 years. You triggered it. 8% interest. You triggered it. No down payment. Flexible terms. Challenge credit okay. Financing available with little to no down payment. Flexible terms. Challenge credit okay. That very last one I might be a little gray on. You know, I said financing is available. That shouldn't trigger TILA. But I did say the amount of down payment. I said little to none, but I didn't directly specify a dollar amount. So that one might be debatable. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that one, sis? Like, do you got any input on something like that? Because me personally, I'm a little confused on that one.
Yeah, that sounds like a little gray area right there.
So this is what I'm talking about. Like, if you've got a gray area, this is where you need your attorney. Because I'm not sitting here to tell you all this stuff, but you need to have those kinds of things figured out. Inside of this gray area, though, You know, one thing that I could do that I would never have to really worry about whenever I'm communicating with a buyer is I can say, mobile home for sale, owner financed. Boom, I didn't trigger anything. When I say mobile home for sale, owner financed, if I go back over here and I go to the slides, excuse me, if I come back over here and I look at the slides, what triggers Tilla? Oops, I'm sitting here. Let me get back over here. The things that I'm aware of that trigger Zilla, excuse me, cut, 5, cut, there we go. The only things that I'm aware of that triggers Reg Z, which may not be the truth, is the amount of a down payment, the amount of any installment payment, the total number of payments, and the length of financing term or the finance charge amount. If I say that I will be willing to own or finance my home, I am not going to trigger Reg Z. The only thing that's going to trigger it for me that I'm aware of are the terms right here. So this very last one may or may not trigger Reg Z. Now let me show you how I might be able to modify that so that way I don't feel like it's going to trigger Reg Z. Instead of saying financing available with little to no down payment, flexible terms, challenge credit okay, I might say something financing available with financing available on flexible terms, challenge credit okay. I just completely got rid of the down payment part. Well, now that I've got that set up, it might be a way for me to not have to worry about Reg Z. But those are things that I need to keep you aware of. I don't want somebody that's super up on their laws going after you, trying to say that you violated some terms that you were not even aware of. Okay? So remember who your buyer is, or even better, remember who they are not. You are going after a specific buyer type. Okay? What do I mean by that? Your buyer is often going to be a first-time home buyer with challenge credit. They're normally going to be looking at the purchase of your home from the standpoint of, can I afford the monthly payment versus the total purchase price? The total purchase price is something they reflect upon, but the can I afford it part is more often where their decision-making terms come from. And they're looking for the opportunity to have some home ownership where they can have a yard, choose what color they want to paint the inside of their house, and they're looking for safe, clean, and affordable. Okay? Whenever I do go to schedule my appointments after I do some advertising on this, and I go out there, I drop my bandit signs, I drop my flyers at the local apartment complexes, I do my advertising on Craigslist, and I start getting people that are interested in purchasing this home from me, what I do want to do is, if I've got a substantial amount of interest up front, I try to get them all scheduled in a single day so I'm not spending every night of my week showing this mobile home. I'll tell everybody, it's like, okay, I'm going to have an open house this Saturday. I'm going to have everybody booked from noon to 5 p.m. Show up anytime between noon to 5 and we'll be good to go. Sometimes I'll block these off in 45-minute chunks, but overall I try to get these all within a 4 to 5 hour window on a Saturday. Get them all to show up. Now, there will be times where somebody's going to be like, you know, I really, really, really want this house. Like, man, I want it. I'm telling you right now, I want this house. Is there any chance I can see it tonight? It's a Tuesday night. I don't want to be making 5 trips a week out to this mobile home park that's an hour away from my house. I need some sort of reimbursement to go show it. I'm like, you really, really, really want this house? Yes. All right, well, to pay me for my time, if you PayPal me right now or Zelle pay me or something like that, $100, I'll come out there and I'll unlock it for you right now. And I'll come out there and unlock it for you. And if you buy it tonight, I'll reimburse you that $100. That $100 will go towards the purchase of your home. But if I take the time to go out there and show it to you tonight and you're not willing to move forward on it, I keep that $100. That will normally prevent me from spending a bunch of time on tire kickers, and it'll also give me the opportunity to get that home sold fast to somebody that's urgent and really, really wanting to get in on that house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that idea, actually.
Yeah, because what I found first starting out is, like, one of the very first homes I did was like an hour's drive from my house. And I'd get a bunch of people calling me during the middle of the day, and they'd be like, hey, you know, I really want that. I really want that. And I just waste a ton of time going out there, opening up the house, and then people are like, well, I got to talk to my husband about this. I got to do this. And they were just tire kicking. Well, I didn't want to put up with that anymore. So once I started charging people, what I found is people didn't pay me unless they were serious. And almost always, if they paid me, once I showed up, they were likely buying the house from me. So I kind of used that upfront payment as a way to gauge whether or not these people were paying me or were not just sitting around kicking tires.
Yeah, so, I like that.
I'm gonna take a look.
Jonathan asked, have you ever put them on like on a lockbox so you didn't have to go out?
Putting them on a lockbox is definitely an option. On my behalf, I wanted to get there and close it. I am not the king of remote virtual anything. Like, I know there's a lot of people that do virtual wholesaling, that do a lot of stuff like that, and I see the benefits to automating that. That's not me. I like being face to face with people, and so I would like to get there in front of the buyer, because once they decide to move forward, I want to lock it up and get it done as fast as I possibly can. So yeah, a lockbox is a great idea, and I'm actually kind of embarrassed that I've never done that before. But on my side, I always like showing up with the people, especially on like a group showing style, because I've got 4 or 5 people all looking at it once. It just increased the people's what do you call that, urge or necessity for getting this deal done. They're like, okay, if I don't do it, this person's going to do it, so they give them a little bit of an urgency.
Yeah, that's the same with me, Daniel. I like that. I do like really like 1 hour showings where everybody has to show up at one time for that same reason you just discussed.
Mm-hmm. So over there on YouTube, I got some people asking, every mobile home that I've looked at in my past or in my areas, like around 30 or 35,000, that is a very typical price, and those are the retail sales. You're trying to find the wholesale properties. So just like with single family homes, you got retail and you got wholesale. So you're going to try and find the wholesale deals. So I try and get away from those 30 to 35K ones. All right, let me bounce back over here to, let me see here. I do have another question I'm going to hit real quick from Jim. He's asking, when looking at prices, you want to be between apartment and a house rent, but what happens when the park has no amenities like a basketball court, no pool, no gym, nothing like that, but the apartments do? I would then probably price my mobile home pretty close to that apartment price and a little further away from the single home price. So like, let's say your apartments were renting for $900 and your single family homes were renting for $1,100. I'd probably get my unit probably a little closer to that $950 range, because while the park doesn't have the same amenities as the apartment does, the apartment doesn't have the ownership qualities that the mobile home does. So if that mobile home, I might be able to put a basketball court out in my side yard or something like that. So those are some of the things that we're talking about. All right, let me bounce back over here to the class. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna run right next door to grab myself some water. I literally mean it's gonna be like 20 seconds. So give me just a second. I'm gonna go grab my bottle of water. Much better. Much better. All right, now that I'm back over here. All right, scheduling the appointments, we already talked about that. What do we got next? An interested buyer. And this is most definitely exciting, but try not to forget about Tilla even when you're talking on the phone. I need to make sure that we know this. And this is going to be difficult to skirt around and dance around, and I don't even like it. But we need to discuss this. When you are on the phone with these people, you can still trigger Tilla. You're not even really supposed to discuss terms at all over the phone with a buyer, but you're always going to have a buyer that comes in and says, how much of a down payment do I have to have, and what does my monthly payments look like? That's what they want to know. Well, the Reg Z is not going to let you talk about that. You have to be pre-qualified. I have to look at your credit. I have to do all this type of stuff before I can even discuss that with you. But no one wants to go through and do all that without even having a ballpark understanding of what that looks like up front. So you're gonna be stuck in a situation where the government tells you that you can't answer these people's questions, but these are the questions that they have to know before they can make a decision. So you're gonna have to figure out what to do there. I don't know, you're going to have to talk to your lawyer about this, but some things you might be able to say is, this is all going to be dependent upon your credit. But if you were able to come up with, let's say, $4,000 down, and you wanted to do this for a 5-year term, and your credit was approved, we would probably be able to do something like a $28,000 purchase price with a $614 monthly payment. Now, you've answered the question, but you've got to disclose all of it. What's the length of the term? What's the interest rate? What's the amount of the down payment? And what's the credit got to look like to do it? And I think I covered all of them, but you need to make sure you disclose every single one of those to be inclined in compliance with Reg Z, but Reg Z may not even allow you to discuss that with these people beforehand. So just make sure that you have a clear understanding of what these look like, and that you have a discussion with your legal team prior to doing this. You've got to make your own decisions on this side, but I strongly suggest that you word it in some way like that with confirmation from your legal team. All right. So coming through here, I did have someone asking about the mobile home documents. You can go to selfie.com/Propelio. I'm gonna drop that over there in YouTube, as well as over there in Facebook world for all of y'all out there. So that way, if you need the documents, you can get them. Selfie.com/
I got a quick question, Daniel.
Yes.
Do you run your buyers through a RMLO?
I personally did not. I say that if you are looking to do this, that is not something that I would shy away from, and it would probably be good for you to do. I personally did not do it, and that's me personally. And I'm not saying that that's what you should or should not do. That's just not what I suggest you should do. I almost got a black eye. I got me a little bruise. All right, so all of that's fun and good. All right, so let's keep on going. All right, I got that link dropped, I believe, in the Propelio group as well as out there on YouTube. Let me double check on all of that. How's everybody liking this so far? Y'all feeling like y'all are getting something out of this? I know that this is part 3, and a lot of y'all that were excited about part 1 faded off in part 2, and now that we've made it to part 3, only the serious go-getters that are actually out here getting ready to get this business done are still around, and I'm excited, and I want to congratulate every single one of y'all for staying on part of this. But how are y'all liking this so far? Everybody getting what they need to get out of this? All right. Boom. Let's keep on going. I appreciate all the love from everybody out there. Let's get back over here. Oops. Wrong one. There we go. All right. So let's keep moving forward with this, but make sure that you're paying attention of TILA. There's other things beyond TILA and Reg Z that you need to be paying attention to, and that's going to be the Fair Housing Act. Homework. Fair Housing Act's coming in on the next slide. Then your homework for tonight is going to be find at least 5 classified resources you can place your ads in to get these homes for sale. Study up on TILA Reg Z. That's the best thing I can tell you to do right now, is go out there and understand that on your own. Know what those triggering terms are. So this is how you're going to Google trigger terms TILA Reg Z. That's what you search for on Google, and that's what you should be trying to find. Read up on that so that way you have your own personal understanding of what this system looks like. Okay? Write an ad to sell a mobile home. Let me focus in on some of that for you real quick. I'm gonna go into a little bit of copywriting on this particular conversation here. What do I mean by copywriting? What does my ad gonna look like? I always try to focus on benefits over features. I do all this in all of my marketing copy. Features are, I got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot, 1983 mobile home. That's not features. Features might be like, enjoy the pride of home ownership in as little as 60 months. Have your very own 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot mobile home available to you, so that way when your kids come home from this wonderful school district, they can enjoy their swing set in the front yard. You can while you're blank. Go through and paint the picture of what this home living is going to be like for these people, and go through and paint the picture of what the benefits of owning this home will be. Like, how would it feel to own your home in less than 5 years? Here's bang. Here's the benefits of it. So I always try to write my ads from a benefits perspective and talk about some of the amenities, like enjoy the fresh cool pool during the hot summer months with you and your kids. Enjoy the playgrounds and the basketball courts. Enjoy the benefits of having your own home owned within 5 years. Those are the types of things I try to focus on when I'm writing an ad to sell a mobile home. Heavily treed mobile home park. Enjoy the shade and the grassy fields. Blank. Those types of things. Place an ad and take calls to build your buyers lists. You can always go out there and go into your into your group, say, mobile home supplier, often have mobile homes for sale on terms. If you're interested in buying a mobile home and you'd like to work with me, here are some examples of properties that we would normally have or look like, and just throw out some general pictures of properties that your homes would look like, and say, if you'd be interested in buying homes like these, please fill out this web form. You can go out there and use Google Forms or something like that, and get them to fill out a form with their name, the amount of their down payment, and their contact information. You can start getting your buyers in line as you're out there marketing for your mobile homes simultaneously. So these are all things that I think you should be doing after this class, and I look forward to your feedback in the Propelio group, as well as anything you've got in the real estate investing A to Z group that you tag me in. So I try to monitor those, and if you tag me over there in A to Z, I'll gladly hop in and answer your questions there as well. So that's the end of that class, and I'll move forward to the next one. If any questions popped up in the meantime, let's hit them real quick.
Mira was just asking about the documents that you so graciously provided to everyone. She was asking, is it a comprehensive set of documents, or will she need some additional ones?
They are as comprehensive as I can possibly get for a security agreement and note. You're going to have your legal team review anything I give you, because laws change from state to state, and then specific states will have their own specific requirements of disclosures for you to buy and sell a home. So I can't give you everything. I can give you kind of a guideline of where to start with your legal team, as well as kind of give you some insight as to other things that you should be looking for. For instance, and I'll show you this when it comes time to reselling the home paperwork part, I'll show you all of my paperwork. I did not give you all of my paperwork, and the reason I didn't give you all of my paperwork is that there is Texas-specific paperwork that only Texas requires, and I don't want to confuse you with a bunch of Texas requirements. You need to figure out your state's requirements. But I did give you the security agreement, I did give you the note, and I gave you the application for financing. All of these things need to be reviewed with your legal team in your home state. Okay? So, I'm going to see if I got any questions over there on YouTube, and then I'll get back to it. All right, so let's take a look at YouTube real fast. I don't have the ability to go through all of these because there's a lot of comments coming in over here on YouTube, but that taken into consideration, how do you find demand for employment in an area? I don't do a whole lot of rural investing, so I'm not going to be able to give you very accurate information right up front, but I don't really want to give you a solid answer on that. I know that I've personally got stuck in a small town outside of Dallas, way outside of Dallas, and the town was pretty much dead. There was no demand in that town for homes, so I kind of got stuck on that side. But some things that you might want to look at is how many homes are available for rent, how many homes are on Section 8, what types of employment are available nearby. I don't want to mislead you. I just want to make you aware of it. So you might want to be able to figure out your own way to answer that, and I don't want to mislead you. I wish I could come off the top of my head with some answers for you, but I do most of my investing in a urban area. So what else do we got here? Boom, 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 coming through. Okay, coming through here. Let me see what else I got here. All right, come on through here. Daniel, would I buy a mobile home virtually? I would buy a mobile home virtually. I've never done it before, but I would just need to qualify everything I've done beforehand. And I don't mind buying one virtually as long as the numbers make good sense. All right, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving forward. Excuse me if I got distracted for a second. For anybody that doesn't know me, I am bad with ADD. Like, I have shiny object syndrome like you've never seen before. It is extremely difficult to keep me on task. So when I do get on task, I try to not pull away from it. So let's go through here. Qualifying the buyer. Let's hop in on that real fast. All right. Qualifying the buyer. This is a very critical piece to the puzzle that can either make your life great or a nightmare. There is nothing at all that should constitute you becoming a motivated seller. You do not want to be in a hurry to put somebody in this unit and just take whoever absolutely applies. Because if you take just anybody that applies at all because you're in a hurry to get it sold, you may find yourself in a difficult situation where you're now in a 5-year-long relationship with this person that never wants to pay on time, that's always wanting to complain, and you're feeling more like a landlord than a bank. You do not want to become the bank. You do not want to become the landlord on this deal. You want to be the bank. So you need to make sure that you spend your time up front and make sure you find the right buyer for your property. Okay? We will discuss the application process, criminal and credit checks, employment verification, park qualifications. Now, once I have found an interested buyer, there are some things that I need to keep in mind, and I need to keep myself a very well predefined checklist of go, no-go type of situations. What do I mean by go, no-go? And this needs to be a predefined list. Does like makes at least $3,000 a month. That is a predefined go, no-go. If they make $3,000 a month, it's a go. If they don't make $3,000 a month, it's a no-go. Very important. And I say this for a reason. You'll realize this more as we go along. It needs to be a very predefined selection process. And you need to have it on record for every single potential buyer that comes to you for a qualification. Things to keep in mind. What does their credit score look like? I will not accept anybody with a credit score less than 550. I will not accept anybody with a credit score less than 700. Whatever it is for you is whatever it is for you. But once you have determined that, you do not waver from it. If you do waver from it, you must go back to all previous applications that were applied before you decided to waver from it and give those people the option to buy it underneath your new terms. And there's explicit reasons for doing this. Rental history. I will not accept an eviction or a foreclosure. That's a foreclosure. That is a very predefined go, no-go scenario. I will not accept an eviction in the last 3 years. I will not accept a foreclosure in the last 3 years. These are the types of things that you're looking for. Criminal history. I will only accept, or I will not accept violent offenders. I will not accept sexual offenders. I will not accept XYZ. These are things that you have to have very clearly defined, and you run every single new potential buyer through this exact same go, no-go scenario. Okay? Let me go back. I don't know, because I don't know how deep I get in on this. And I know I get deep on this, but I don't know where, so I'm going to touch base on this for a second. You do not want to get yourself into a process of a discrimination suit. And this gives you your very clearly defined trail of paperwork to say, I have discriminated against nobody. This is my qualifying terms. Here are the 17 things that I require a buyer to have before I approve them. And the reason they were not approved was because this line right here shows that they only make $2,600 a month in income, and I require $3,000 a month in income. That is why they were denied. I received 19 applications to purchase this mobile home, and the 19th application was the only application that qualified all 17 questions. And I can show them every single applicant, and I can show exactly where the go, no-go process was maintained. And I maintained that for the record with that mobile home for the life I have that mobile home. It is a very important CYA for yourself. You do not want to get yourself caught up in a discrimination suit. Okay? So you got that, and you need to make sure that your go, no-go is very clearly defined. Okay? To pull the buyer's credit, you must have their name, address, and social security number, as well as a release to pull their credit. So I always have my potential buyers sign a release for me to pull their credit. Things that I look for on the credit is their payment history. If they had a hiccup in the road 4 or 5 years ago, and I can see across the board that 5 years ago they defaulted on a bunch of credit cards and got evicted, I'll just sit down and be like, hey, what happened 5 years ago? It looks like your credit took a hit. Yeah, I got into a bad car accident. I was out of work for a month and everything got behind and I just couldn't get out of it. It caused me a problem. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like life. Life happens to a lot of people. And I can't hold life against this person forever. If they've done a good job of keeping their payments up after that, they've got good rental history after that, I'm fine with that. Some of the things that I'm looking at though is, are they just a habitual non-payer? Like if I look at their history for the last 5 years and they've just got no payments all over the place, I'm not gonna deal with it. I I don't want to turn around and sell this home to this person and just have myself become a management nightmare of every single month trying to hunt this person down to get paid. I don't want to do that. All right, so cutting back over here to the slides. We'll look at their payment history on their credit report, prior bankruptcies. I may not consider a bankruptcy a no-go. I just need to make sure that if I do see a bankruptcy on there, I clarify what's going on with the bankruptcy. Okay? Prior foreclosures and credit usage. You know, is their credit cards completely tapped out? If their credit cards are completely tapped out, are they still making their payments? You know, what's their debt to income look like? That's something else I'm going to look at on their qualification here. I'm not going to take a debt to income greater than 50%. I don't know if I discussed this further on in the slide, so I'll go ahead and discuss this right now. What is your debt to income? The total amount of revolving debt that you must pay in relationship to your total income. So if I want a 50% of debt to income, like I don't want to see their car payments, their credit card payments, and any other major payments equaling out to more than 50% of their income. And that includes their payment to me. Because outside of just the revolving debt, they're still going to have to pay for their gas, they're going to have to pay for their food, they're going to have to pay for all that other stuff. So I want to make sure that at least 50% of the revenue is still available to them for all the rest of their expenses during the month. So I try not to include anybody with more than a 50% debt to income. You're going to need to figure out on your side where that's at. Some people will accept up to a 60%. You can choose up to a 90%, but I think you're putting yourself in a bad situation. Try to keep that debt to income at about 50% or less. You know, if you got somebody coming in with a 40-30% debt to income, you've probably got a really good chance that buyer's going to make a payment to you. If you start hitting 60-70% debt to income, you're almost begging for a problem. Okay? Boom. Let me come back over here. All right. Here we go. All right. Going on to the next one. Employment, income, and reference checks. You should start your employment and reference checks as soon as your application and credit checks are completed. Most prospective buyers move in a 30 to 45 day window. They're trying to move in, and your speed will help move the process along. Most people, whenever it's time to get moving, about a month to 2 months before it's time for their lease at their apartment to go up or their lease at their single family home to go up, they start looking for a place to move. So when you are doing this credit check with your buyers, move fast. These people are on a timeline of their own. You can't be dragging your feet about this. You need to make sure that you're doing your buyers a solid service and moving along fast at a decent speed. Okay? Have applicants sign an employment verification request, and I do verify their employment. I will also request paycheck stubs, stuff like that, so I can see that their income's coming in. I want to see where that income's coming from. I don't want to really be depending upon their overtime. I don't like qualifying their overtime, and that is part of my go no go. Like they must make $3,000 a month at their typical 40. I don't include overtime in that equation because overtime can disappear. I always request my income information, paychecks, pay stubs, W-2s, requests for self-employed bank statements or a 4506T, which is their tax returns. I want to see that they're able to make the payments on it. It is my responsibility as the lender, in my opinion, to make sure that I'm putting these buyers into a quality situation that they can survive. I shouldn't be setting these people up for failure. And part of this means that I need to make sure that they can afford it. And like, I need to give some reasonable level of due diligence saying, you know what, I didn't sell somebody a home that costs $5,000 a month when they only make $1,000 a month. Like that would be ridiculous. There's no way they're going to be able to afford $5,000 a month. I, as a lender, my qualifications are 50% debt to income, and you know they can't include overtime in that. And based upon that, I should be able to anticipate that they're going to be able to make the payments on this. So if I'm ever standing in front of a judge because I got sued, I'll be like, the national standard right now for a traditional bank loan is 60% debt to income. I underwrote these people at a 50% debt to income. I verified their rental history. I verified their payment and credit history. I had no reason to believe that this person would not be able to make these payments. You know, I feel comfortable talking to a judge and saying that. So I try to set my transactions up in a way that if I had to sit in front of a judge, I could look that judge in the eyes and say I made a strong, logical decision, and I was doing my best effort to make sure that I put these people in a good situation to survive. Okay? Let me keep looking through here. Prior foreclosures, credit usage, park qualifications. Most parks are going to require their own tenant screening process, and with that taken into consideration, I will often send them to the park during my application process to get them to qualify with the park simultaneously. The park may have pet restrictions, age restrictions, criminal restrictions, debt to income requirements, and application fees. You might want to know what those are up front. Okay? Now this is a very important piece to this whole thing, and we're going to go through 2 or 3 slides just on the Fair Housing Act. This was created in 1968, and it protects your rights to rent an apartment, buy a home, or obtain a mortgage or purchase homeowners insurance free from discrimination based upon race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, disability. Let me go back on that, because those are all important, very important things to be aware of and make sure that you're not in violation of. All of that stuff is important. Take yourself a screenshot on that, because we're going to talk more about this as we move forward. I don't want y'all to violate TILA. I don't want y'all to violate the FHA. I need to make sure that y'all are aware of this so that way you can have a very strong and very detailed discussion with your legal team. Okay? So, going forward, in regards to the Fair Housing Act, there is still some limited protection for alcoholics and drug users. Federal fair housing law extends limited protection to 2 carefully defined groups. You might be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I'm not going to accept any drug addicts into my home. Well, you may have just violated the Fair Housing Act. You know what? That might be considered a disability, and you are now discriminating against somebody based upon a handicap. You can't do that. So let's take a look at some of these things. I got all this information right here from this link at the bottom, landlordology.com, top 10 fair housing mistakes. But these are some of the things that you can be looking for and you may want to study up on yourself. Recovering alcoholics. Those who actively and regularly participate in a medically based treatment or AA program cannot be discriminated against, and you cannot even ask them about it to the best of my knowledge. I can't ask them, like, are you in rehab? Because that might be a question that I'm not allowed to ask. So you know what? If I know that they're on drugs, or they've been on drugs, or they're alcoholics, or they've been on alcohol, I may want to just completely avoid the conversation. And if they fit my go, no-go, I may have to just go ahead and accept them. You need to figure this out with your legal team. What else do we have here? Former drug addicts, including those who have prior convictions for illegal drug use, but not for drug dealing or manufacture. This is something you might want to clarify your knowledge on, okay? Fair Housing Act, age discrimination. The Fair Housing Act does have a provision for senior communities. There are 2 kinds of senior citizen housing exempted. Communities where every tenant is 62 years or older, or a 55 and older community in which at least 80% of the occupied units must be occupied by at least one person 55 years or older. So I cannot discriminate personally unless the entire park has a restriction, and it can only be one of those 2 descriptions. But I cannot say you have to be at least 22 years old to buy a home from me. That's discrimination. I can't say you have to be at least 30 years old to buy a home from me. That's discrimination. Okay? Top 10 fair housing mistakes. Prohibiting children from certain activities, such as stating that children may not ride bicycles on the sidewalk. It is illegal to treat households with children differently than households without children. The community rule stated here would be perfectly acceptable if rephrased this way: no riding bicycles on the sidewalk. Because I'm no longer discriminating against someone based upon their age. A child, if an adult is allowed to ride on the sidewalk, the child should be allowed to ride on the sidewalk. You're not allowed to discriminate. So keep those types of things in mind. Top 10 fair housing mistakes. Failing to document what rent specials were offered to each prospective resident. Okay? If prospective residents makes an accusation of discrimination, HUD may ask for all documentation, including the rent offered, apartments shown, specials, deposits, and fees. If you cannot provide this documentation, it is significantly more difficult to prove that discrimination did not occur. And that's why I told you to all have a go, no-go checklist and document what was offered to this particular person. So that way it is very easy to show a paper trail of what you did or did not do in this transaction. Okay? Declining a rental application for any other reason than the prospective resident not meeting your stated qualified criteria. Now, what did I say on that? Go, no-go checklist. Does anybody in here starting to realize that there's a common theme going on in this show? Go, no-go checklist must be for all applicants that you receive. All right? Cindy just asked if I use an RMLO to qualify the buyer. I would suggest you do. I personally did not. That was my personal choice. I don't recommend it to you, but I did not, although I recommend that you do. Okay? All right, let me go through here. Denying a disabled resident's request for an assigned parking spot because you have an existing handicap spots that you think should suffice. It is always wise to consult with your supervisor and, if possible, legal counsel before denying a request for an accommodation. Now, I may not be able to control whether or not this person gets a handicap parking spot or not, but I might need to have a conversation independently with the park manager and say, hey, I have a handicapped resident requesting a handicapped assigned parking spot for their place. Can we accommodate them? And I would probably try to stay out the middle of that conversation and just have the homeowner have that conversation directly with the park manager. I don't really want to be involved with that potential litigation. Refusing a resident to allow to have a service animal because communities does not accept pets. Service animals are not pets. They are protected underneath this act. Be prepared for that. This one I thought was weird. I would not have known this. I would have got myself in some trouble on this one right here. Evicting a hoarder instead of accommodating them for their disability. Hoarding is considered a disability, and with that taken into consideration, I, as a landlord and or a potential bank, I need to be sensitive to their disability, and I may need to try my best to accommodate their disability. Okay? This is why I say lawyer and legal advice is involved. You need to be aware of what you're doing here. And, you know, anytime you go out to buy a single-family home, and you do buy that single-family home with some financing, you're normally signing like 60, 70, 80, 100-plus pages of paperwork. Do you know what probably 90 out of those 110 pages of paperwork are? 90 of those pieces of paper are disclosures to cover their bank's butt. All of those disclosures are there specifically for if you try to come back and sue that bank, they've got all these disclosures saying, okay, disclose, 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 disclose. These are things that I'm trying to help you out with right here. You are becoming the bank. You are becoming the person that decides whether or not these people are able to get a loan from you. And at the point in time you start taking on that responsibility, you also needed to take on the responsibility of staying within the guidelines of the law as the best as you possibly can. Okay? Okay? Allowing the maintenance team to choose which service request to respond to next in no particular order. You're not going to necessarily be dealing with this, but I went ahead and just took all 10 of their top 10 from landlordology.com. Feel free to take a look at that link at the bottom of the screen. But you should have a very clearly defined service order plan for all of the businesses that you're doing. Okay? Failing to train all associations, failing to train all associates who interact with customers, including your maintenance team members, on fair housing laws. If you've got somebody answering your phone, make sure that they understand TILA Reg Z. If you've got somebody answering your phone, make sure they understand the Fair Housing Act. If you've got somebody like that on your team that's going to be dealing directly with people trying to buy these homes from you, make sure they're knowledgeable on Reg Z as well as the FHA's Fair Housing. Okay, homework. Create your go, no-go buyer screening checklist. Review a buyer financing application. Obtain an employment verification authorization. Review Form 4056T. Study up on the Fair Housing Act. And determine if your city has additional fair housing rules. That is a clear caveat that you need to pay attention to, is while the state's laws cannot be less stringent than the federal laws, the state's laws can offer additional requirements. So while I described the federal Fair Housing Act, your state may have some of their own additional requirements that you're going to need to pay attention to. So we're cutting off. We're going to go over to the next slide during this time. If you've had questions that we're waiting, please feel free to jump them in. But we're moving this class slide along, and I'm excited about getting this moved forward.
I think we're good.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take some time between now and the other class. In fact, getting in here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do the next class, and then I'm going to show you all of my documents. When I go to show you my documents, I don't want you to get overwhelmed, but I'm going to show you about 40 of them. I've got about 40 separate documents that I go through and I have signed at the point in time I turn around to sell a home. Why did I not include those in the package I sent you? Because about 37 of those 40 documents are state-required documents. Okay? Closing with the buyer, done. Okay, so let's go through closing with the buyer. Get this done.
I did see a few. I scrolled up. I do see a few questions, Daniel, if you got time.
I do. I most definitely do. I appreciate all your help here, sis. It really does help me out big time.
You're most welcome. It's my pleasure. Grace asked, can you give a little bit of insight or advice on how, considering the time that we're in right now with the unemployment rate and things like that, what advice can you share with people that are, considering people are losing their jobs in such high volume, thinking of the likelihood that the buyer becomes unemployed after purchasing a home? Like what's advice can you give in that regard?
Excellent question. Sorry about that. I was taking a drink of water. Excellent question. So I'm gonna give a short thought process on what I think's about to happen. And this is just my stupid opinion, and I'm going to state it just as that. It's my opinion. We're in for some hurt as a nation across the board. I don't think that what's happened over the last couple of months is going to be easy for us to recover from, and I don't think we're going to feel the full effects of it for another 18 months to 24 months. I think progressively over the next 18 to 24 months, there is going to be a rising increase in trouble across the board. Small businesses going out of business, people's employments going away, a lot of things along those lines causing our economy to not do so well. I really don't want this to happen, but I really don't foresee anything but that happening. So that taken into consideration, I expect over the next 18 to 24 months for the demand for low-income housing to go up even more, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be moving out of that more expensive home that they had just recently purchased. There's going to be a lot more people that are trying to get out of these situations, and this is something you're going to have to decide from your viewpoint underwriting these deals as to whether or not you want to take a look. All right, this person just got a foreclosure 3 months ago. Why did they get their foreclosure? And this is where you're going to have to figure out how your go, no-go plays out. Why did they go into foreclosure? Were they considered a non-essential employee according to the government? The government said, you know what, I don't consider you essential, and you're no longer allowed to feed your kids. Don't go to work anymore. Your business is no longer essential. I don't consider your business essential. I'm going to bankrupt you. The government just did that to a lot of small businesses. The government, and I understand the whole virus thing. I'm not even going to get into a debate on the virus thing. I'm going to just clearly point out facts. Thousands and thousands and thousands of small businesses are about to go out of business because the government shut them down, and those businesses could not afford to be shut down for 2 months. That's facts. Those people are likely about to experience foreclosure. That's facts. You're going to have to decide when you're underwriting these deals, if this was a COVID-based problem, are you going to hold them accountable to it? Were they being lazy? Is the reason they went into foreclosure because they didn't want to work, or was it because they got shut down? You're going to have to determine that on your own. All that taken into consideration, though, I would say that the demand for low-income housing is going to skyrocket over the next 18 to 24 months. So, on your side, if you underwrite them properly up front, the probability of them losing their job months later, COVID's already happened. All of these problems have already happened. Like I said, the next 18 to 24 months, I'm going to see that increase. But you're going to have to make that as your own no-go and no-go decision. For me personally, I'm not going to weigh heavily on foreclosures right now, because I know, like right now, I'm probably about $18,000 behind in rent collections right now. My rent collections are a little different than single family homes. I've talked to a lot of single family landlords, and a lot of single family landlords were saying that their rent collections have been far greater than what they anticipated them being. I, on the other hand, have a lot of commercial tenants. My commercial tenants' businesses were completely shut down. This is not a I wonder if they're going to pay me this month type of thing or not. I know for a fact they made no income this month. Right. I also know for a fact that their expenses didn't go down. So for that to take into consideration, I've got about $18,000 in past due rent collections that I'm not even trying to enforce right now. I've just accepted that their pain is my pain, and there's no way for me to argue with these people. I've just accepted that there's $18,000 of income that I've lost in the last 2 months because of this. I need to make a decision. Am I going to hold these people accountable to something that wasn't their fault and make myself move forward from there? I think I've taken far longer than I should have answering that question, but that's my opinion on the subject.
Cool. Karina asked a good question too. She said, how do you decide if you have a bunch of applicants and a lot of them are qualified, how do you decide who will get the home, given that all the people you're considering are going all in one category? Is it first person with the down payment?
First person, it's time stamped. So the first person that meets all of my criteria is the person that I go with. So yes, they must meet my go, no go checklist. They must give me their background checks. They must give me all that stuff. The first person that gets through all of that wins and has the down payment. I don't take more than one application at a time. It's been a while since I've sold a mobile home. It's probably been close to 4 or 5 years since I've sold a mobile home. I probably took multiple applications at a time, and they were time stamped, but I would always disclose to the other parties that there were other applications in front of them, but they have not been qualified yet. But in the event that they're qualified, I'll return it or whatnot. You kind of need to talk to your own legal counsel on that side. But timestamp is definitely the way I went on my route. The first person to apply that met all my qualified standards got it. I didn't turn it into a bidding war. I didn't turn it into like, well, I've got somebody now that's going to give me 6,000 down. Will you give me 6,000 down? I didn't do that, but talk with your attorney on that side.
Awesome. I think we're clear on this side in terms of questions right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sis. I've got somebody asking again about the RMLO side. I've already answered this a couple of times. I do not use an RMLO. I suggest you do, though. That's my own personal stance. I did not, but I suggest you do. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on forward. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So, let me see. Where am I at? All right. Cut that over. Boom. All right. All right. So, settlement procedures for the sale of a house. And I'm going to come through and I'm going to show you all of my documents at the end of this class so you can see everything I had. Okay. Settlement procedures for the sale. This is an incredibly important piece that may have additional state requirements, but I'll highlight the primary objectives for you that include compliance review checklist. And I'll break some of this stuff out for you. Consumer disclosures. I want to make sure I've got consumer disclosures. This is referring to the state of Texas. And this is where I struggle with teaching a class like this because the requirements change so much across the United States. Purchase application with financing, that's something I want. Mobile home note security agreement, mobile home arbitration agreement, an application for title, however that's done in your state. And those are the main things that I'm going to need done during my closing. Now, the compliance review checklist. This is something that you need to make. You need to make it. I don't know what compliance looks like in your state. I don't know what compliance looks like for you as a dealer in your state. If you do become a dealer, your dealer license may require you to do additional disclosures that I'm not aware of. You need to figure out what your compliance review checklist is and create it for yourself. Okay? So, moving forward. The following checklist is general and may have additional requirements for your state, but these are some of the things that I would strongly suggest you do. Also consider reviewing with your attorney, but these are things that I would strongly suggest you do based upon my own investigations. Number 1, you need to have your loan docs delivered at least 24 hours prior to signing. They need adequate time to review these documents. Repeat Give them at least 24 hours to review these documents prior to closing, and this may change depending upon state laws and or federal laws that I am unaware of. It may take up to 7 days before you're allowed to close with them, but I am well aware that you need to wait at least 24 hours prior to closing. So you need to have all of your loan docs prepared and delivered to these people so that they have adequate time to review and make this financial decision before closing. You cannot sit down with them, show them the house, and less than an hour later sign off on the entire deal and have it done. You do not do that. They need to have adequate time to make this decision. Okay? State and federal required consumer disclosures. In the state of Texas, we are required to give them what's called a consumer disclosure. It's a 5-page disclosure that's required in the state of Texas. Your state may be different. HUD disclosure to consumer regarding dispute resolution. These are all things that I've done myself. So you can just Google HUD disclosure to consumer regarding dispute resolution mobile homes. HUD required installation program disclosure to consumer. This may or may not be required in your state. These are just high-level things that I'm aware of. Site preparation notice for use homes. And I'll show you what some of this stuff looks like inside of my documents. Receipt of notices and warnings. Note and security agreement that they have for review. Arbitration agreement. Broker disclosures. Formaldehyde disclosures. Construction standards notices. All things that I include. Used home warranty. In the state of Texas, as a dealer, I have to do a 60-day used home warranty. And an opportunity to review and cancel. They need to know that they have the opportunity to back out of this within a specific amount of time. This is required in the state of Texas. Transfer title. Okay, so once you've gone through, you've done all that paperwork. I'm going to go through all this paperwork with you and show it to you, because I know this is probably the most important piece to you, and this is the piece that you really need to understand. So I'm going to go through all of my documents with you. Okay? Transfer of title. Homework. Review provided documents. Study your state laws. Have your legal advisor review documents. Create your own compliance checklist. And compile your state-specific docs. I'm going to give you a little hack. And one little hack that I use to help get myself going in this business. We may or may not be aware of a large national group called Yes Communities, another large international group called ARC Communities, that's ARC. Both of them are very, very large companies with a legal team backing them. I should suspect that they have their compliance taken care of. If I find a Yes Community or a ARC community that has a mobile home for sale that I might be interested in purchasing, you can go in there and apply to purchase that mobile home. And through the application of purchasing that mobile home, you should be able to have a fairly good understanding of what these documents look like. You should have a fairly good understanding of what's going on in your state. So let's say you don't have the funds to go out and pay a lawyer $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 to review all of your legal documents. I'm not suggesting that this is what you do. I'm saying that this might be an opportunity for you to gain a better understanding. Is go to an ARC or a Yes Community if they have a home that you might be interested in purchasing that meets your needs. Go in there and apply to purchase it, and through the application of purchase, you should be able to see what their note and security agreement looks like, what their consumer disclosures look like, what their HUD disclosures look like. You should be able to see all of the paperwork that a very large national company is using in your state and have a reasonable expectation that the documents that they're using will suffice for what you're trying to do. And then from there, that should give you guidelines on how you might be able to operate within your own state. Now, is that foolproof? No. But if you're on a budget, that might be a low-key budget hack that you might be able to get in and get an understanding of what the documents are, so then you can review and have a stronger standpoint to start from. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what my documents look like here. Okay. I'm going to get out of that. It's going to take me a second to pull up here.
While you pulling that up, Jonathan had a quick question. Do you share your go no go list with the buyers?
Up front, I tell them exactly up front before they even pay me for the I do charge for a credit check and background check. I normally charge 50 to $100 for it, and before they ever even pay me that money, I give them the go no go up front, so that way they do have a copy of it. And I have them initial it, so that way it's very clearly defined exactly what I will or will not accept. I don't want there to be any ambiguity there.
Good stuff. Okay.
All right. So everything that's going through here is exactly what I'm going to show you. Let me see. Can y'all see my screens? Y'all cannot see my screens. I'll go through one item at a time. And before I show it to you, I'm going to confirm that I don't have any confidential information on it, like social security numbers or anything like that. So, whoops. All right. Let me pull that away. All right, so I'm gonna show some of these documents to you. This is gonna take some time. I know this is gonna take some time, but I don't know if I'm gonna have a time to go through all 40 documents with you. But I'm gonna show you what I got. Okay, so I'm gonna cut over here. All right, so this is a purchase memo. So this right here is essentially just me and you having a conversation about trying to buy my mobile home, and this is where I'm going to go through and document all of it. And this is not a binding contract on either buyer or seller, and is not a truth in lending disclosure. Now, this document was curated by the Texas Mobile Homeowners Association. See, if I come down here, TMHA, this TMHA form is not allowed to be used by anybody that's not a member of TMHA. So if you are in Texas, I would strongly recommend you become a member of Texas Mobile Home Association. They have a lot of legal advice. They have a lot of documents. They have a lot of things to help you keep your business going. So I would come back through here. I did have a question pop in on YouTube from Love Yourself Hard Cosmetics. Repeat that again, please. What would you like me to repeat? I do not know what you're referring to. But this document is kind of like somebody's sitting down, they're interested in buying a home from me. This is where I'll document the terms of what I offered them. It's not a binding contract. It's just me telling them what I'm offering them, and it's them for them to sign off on. It's not a contract. Okay? Now, getting away from that, I go into, and I've got a compliance review list. This is the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. This is the compliance review checklist provided by the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. So for anybody out there wondering right now, well, I just bought these documents from you, Daniel. Why didn't you provide that to me? Because it's Texas specific. And I didn't really provide a Texas specific document for everybody in the world. But this is provided by TDHCA. And this goes through and tells you all the stuff that they're going to require of you to be in compliance as a dealer. All right. So this is what that looks like. That's a long checklist. So a lot of the documents that I'm referring to that I keep inside of my package come straight off of this compliance review checklist. If you are a Texas real estate investor and you are trying to put this together for your own personal use, go to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs Manufactured Housing Division, find this compliance review checklist, and then go through. That right there, that disclosure, that's a hyperlink to download the disclosure. So all of these are links to the disclosures that you need. The rest of these disclosures are often found at TMHA or just through a straight up Google search. That's my compliance review checklist. The Texas required consumer disclosure. I have this in English and in Spanish. Okay. This is the Texas state required disclosure, all provided by TDHCA. This is all free for you to go out there and download on your own. Okay. This is a initial state required disclosures: lease purchase, choosing a manufactured home retailer, deposits, financing options, local restrictions and zoning requirements, site preparations, installation, upkeep and maintenance, foundation maintenance, lot rent, water and utilities, sewer connections, homeowners association fees, property taxes, insurance, blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff is important. State requires it. Okay. What else do we have here? That one's in Spanish. A dispute resolution. This is required by Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs for all brokers. I say brokers, but we're called RBIs, retailer broker installers. I need a HUD disclosure to consumer regarding dispute resolution. Can anybody in here guess where you can get this copy of that document from? Where do you think you might be able to get that document from? TDHCA. TDHCA. All right. We'll close this one out. Installation disclosure for a new home. I don't do a lot of new homes, but I'll show you one for a used home. Once again, you should be able to guess where I got this document from. I'm hoping that for other people in like Virginia, Ohio, Connecticut, Vermont, Georgia, California, Nevada, wherever you're from, your state has these types of documents already prepared for you. You need to figure these types of things out. But boom. So if anybody in here, and I've already know that a bunch of y'all in here are, like I know that Jonathan was, and I know at least 4 or 5 other people, Alma, there's quite a few of y'all already looking to go get your RBIs. Everything I'm showing you right now are the things that you have to do. Okay? Boom. Possible need to vacate. All right, you need that one signed. Site preparation notice. Now, that one also comes from the Texas Mobile Home Department. All right, now this one I'm going to get deep on. This one I'm going to talk more about. This is one of the notes. This is one of the documents that you got on Selfie. All right, let me pull this one up for you. I'm going to talk about this one quite a bit. All right. All right, I'm going to talk about this one quite a bit. Okay. Now, earlier we were talking about TILA, Truth in Lending. This should cover most of your TILA requirements. Double check, as always, with your legal team. Things change. TILA may have changed some since this document was drafted. But TILA requires you to show what the annual percentage rate is, what the amount financed is, what the charge for the financing is, and what the total payments will be. So that is all very clearly defined right up here. This is all TILA required stuff. You need to have your legal team confirm for it, but this is a note secured by a security agreement, installment note, interest included, with a personal property secured by security agreement for Texas. Okay. These are the TILA required notifications. So if you're going to use these documents with approval from your legal team, you need to go through, you'll need to update the amount you're charging for financing, how much they are being financed. This would be the PV in your 10B2 calculator. What's the finance charge? This is going to be the total of interest paid. That's the dollar amount that you're going to pay for the interest. And this is the total amount of your principal and interest combined. So that is how you fill out this top part. How many payments there will be? If you're going to do this right here is a